Welcome back to another episode of I Know, a solo Beatles video cast where we talk all things solo Beatles. Now, today, this may be my most anticipated interview ever. She is related to a Beatle. She lived with a Beatle. And she shares the name of a Beatles mother. Mystery guest, welcome to the show.
I think the mystery's over now, Hudson.
Yeah. We have Julia Biard. Did I pronounce that?
Yeah. Yes, you did. Biard. Yeah.
So, Julia, how's life been like in England with the pandemic?
Well, we just have at 6 o'clock, which is an hour from now, we have an announcement by our Prime Minister. You all know what's been happening with the G7, don't you? We've had Mr. Biden over.
Yeah.
And he came over to the G7 in Cornwall, and they did talk about climate change, and he brought 12 Hummers with him and a ship and Air Force One into a tiny country place. That was to talk about climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful, isn't it? Just wonderful. They all came in their own individual private jets. Only our Queen, who is the only one I respect amongst all of them, came on the train. The Queen and the royal family went down to Cornwall by train, and they all flew. They didn't even meet anywhere and come in one jet. They all came in their own jets to talk about climate change.
That baffles me.
Now, the lockdown, we're in lockdown and we're not allowed to meet. It's a national one. It's unlike you, it's a federal thing. We don't have little places doing different things. And we are not allowed to meet with more than 30 people outdoors. We are not allowed to socialise with more than 6 people indoors. I'm not saying everyone's doing this. I'm saying this is what they're asking of us. We're not allowed to do this and we're not allowed to do that, or it is a criminal offence. And they all partied and barbecued on the beach. So that
Even if you're vaccinated?
Yeah, even if you're vaccinated. The vaccine doesn't actually stop.
Right.
Either transmission, infection, or sometimes even being very ill. It's not the elixir that they're promoting. It definitely helped the situation, of course, but it's not the end of the story, is it? It's not like polio vaccine stopped polio. It's not that sort of. It's not that sort of medication at all, is it?
No. It isn't. But but I'm glad that everything's opened up. That's what they just announced today. Everything's opened up, which I think is.
You've been closed down, haven't you? Quite severely in parts of America. Have you been closed down yourself while you are?
Last year we were pretty secluded, but it's been kind of open. You can go shopping, but out. Eating indoors was closed for a long time, and now it's full capacity everywhere.
Oh, well, I'm pleased. I'm pleased for you. I'm pleased it's happening somewhere, even if it's not happening with us yet.
And are you listening to any music in lockdown?
Yes. We've been listening to a lot of radio for reports about what's going on with the pandemic, of course. But I've been listening to Marianne Faithfull, Broken English, Rolling Stones Always. If you're expecting a Beatles record, you're not going to get one. Beethoven, Yo-Yo Ma, the Bach cello concertos, African music, different music. We still go for CDs. Because we're a bit old-fashioned, so we haven't gone back to record players. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. When we personally still had long player LPs and things. John used to have sent to all members of the family all the records that came out, and they were factory records. They were grooved on one side and completely plain on the other. So we needed 2 LPs to get one double-sided LP. They were straight from the factory, and we got them all. We got everything. And I had stacks, I cannot tell you, that had never even been opened, never mind played.
Wow.
And then I went to visit, as part of my work and my absolute pleasure, I'm an Elvis fan, we went to Graceland, and we do some business with Jack Soden in Graceland. And I was telling one of them I had all these records, and she said, oh, and she sent me everything from Elvis as well. So I had Elvis and all the Beatles records. And we'd moved house about 1 million times, taking these records with us everywhere, not even open. And by this time, we were all buying CDs for everything. Tape cassettes are gone, really, although they're trying to bring those back, aren't they? And then CDs. So we have the CDs. And I said, you know what? These have got to go. Now, this was in 1992, 3, before memorabilia became anything as it is now. I mean, it just didn't exist. So we took everything to the tip and just threw them all in this the back of this great big tipper thing, and lost them forever.
Wow.
Isn't it sad? It'd be worth a fortune now. So we got rid of all the records, but they were really, really now valuable. But I just thought, well, we've got everything on CD now, everything. So, why are we bothering with these? But I don't like to think about that too much.
Yeah, but I'm glad you're keeping music alive.
Oh, yes. I mean, we're all, our age group particularly, we are great listeners to music, and we don't particularly stream.
I don't either.
Actually listening to CDs. I have a CD player in my car, and when I got it 3 years ago, they said there's no CD player in this car because everybody uploads, downloads, sideloads and everything. I was like, well, I don't do that. And they said, oh, have you got a smartphone? I said, yes, I've got a smartphone, but I don't do all that music stuff, Spotify. I just don't do it. Oh, but you can have, I said, look, I've got CDs. And he said, well, in this car, it's an S5. It's a sports car. It's an Audi S5. It's a super duper duper car. Oh, no, everything's all, the whole car. I said, oh. I said, do you know what? I'm going to Mercedes because I know they do a CD player. He said, oh, hang on a minute. Makes a phone call, and they put a CD player in for me. Now, they don't know about John or anything. They're just looking at a customer who says, if I'm going to travel in this car, I want my music.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So they've taken something else out, I don't know what, not the engine, fortunately, and put the CD player in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you said that you were John Lennon's sister, they would have the CD player right there. But that's really awesome that they did that.
Well, I just said I'll go to Mercedes because I know that. And oh, hang on. I just wanted the CD player. So we've got them. My partner and I, we've got them in this room. We've got them in the next room because we've got digital radios everywhere. Do you have digital radio in the States?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, right. So we've got digital radios all over the house. We do love the radio. And we also listen to a fantastic station called Planet Rock. Now, if you have a digital radio, you might get it.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And Jazz FM, fantastic. We listen to different things. And so we've got CDs all over the house, in the car. Yeah. We do listen to music. What's your favourite music?
Oh, Beatles.
Oh.
And
okay.
I'm a Stones person too.
Yeah, I love the Stones.
So I first want to talk about your mother, Julia. What are some memories about Julia?
Well, I mean, as a mother, and hopefully you still have yours.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, which is normal, and thank goodness. I mean, a mother is, in most people's lives, the most special person ever. The most special. I know fathers are important, but mother is mother is mother is mother. And of course, we lost that far too young. Like many other people, we're not the only ones, but you're asking about me. And I think I fared better than my brother and my sister because I was slightly, obviously younger than John, but I was older than my sister, who was only 8. And John was 17, I was 11. So you don't get over anything like that. We were fortunate enough to go to live with my mother's younger, by 2 years, younger sister, and immediately got an extra brother in her son and an extra sister in her daughter, who had been cousins and very well loved cousins, but suddenly they became siblings and we all lived together. So we were luckier than a lot of people, you know, where there isn't family to take up that slack. But you know what it did to John. It broke him.
It did.
Yeah, it broke me. It broke my sister. John was still on the road to recovery, and so are we. But you haven't got a choice. You've got to get on in some way or other. Either that or kill yourself. I mean, that is the alternative. If you've got to get on with your life, you've got to get on with your life. And even as children, you almost know that. Even in the grief, you know that. It's deep. That survival mechanism, it's deep. But not good. Of course, it's not good. I've got a wonderful thing I'll show you. My very good friend is an artist. And when she heard about it, she drew a picture of my mother. Can you see that?
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful picture.
It's absolutely lovely. She did it as a gift for me.
Oh, wow.
And it's on my wall, obviously. And it is very lovely. And she's very gifted. And I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I just couldn't believe it. So my mother is still part of my everyday living.
Yeah, which I think is really special because it was a long time ago, and that's just a really special thing.
Yes, yeah. Well, I look in the mirror and I can see her.
You do. So, I can see the resemblance too.
Yeah. Not as beautiful as she was, but I can see, and I look at my sister, and I see my mother. And I can see her in John as well. So this is our immortality, isn't it? When other people take on the physical and physiological traits of a parent. That's it. For me, that is the immortality. Yeah.
And so when the Beatles were kind of hanging around your house, what were some of your memories of it, Stuart Sutcliffe?
Well, this is when my mother encouraged it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the one. The rehearsals went on in our house because my mother, she played the ukulele, the piano, the banjo, and would have played anything you gave her, and the guitar. And she taught John these instruments. And one thing she did play, which the Quarrymen played as a skiffle group. There were groups in those days. A band was an orchestra with violins, cellos, and timpani and stuff. That was that was a band. A group was the rock group. So my mother used to join in the skiffle on play, with the Quarrymen. And Rod Davis had a banjo, and my mother had a banjo as well. My grandfather, her father, had brought it back from sea. He brought 2 things back when he retired from the Navy. One was a monkey, and one was a mother of pearl banjo. and he taught my mother to play. He played as well. So she joined in with everything going on in our kitchen. We had quite a big kitchen, and she actually invited them in. Colin Hampton, the drummer, I'll just explain that in a minute. I say that, the drummer, his mother would also let them play, but only for a couple of hours on Saturday afternoon while she went shopping. When she came back, they had to get out. Mimi famously didn't let them play at all. Occasionally one was allowed to twang a guitar in the porch. It was my mother that encouraged all that. And I say about Colin as the drummer because what he had was, you know what I mean by tea chest?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you move house, you go online nowadays. You used to go to Yellow Pages to a book, and somebody will be selling 50 tea chests, and you buy them all. You buy them for a couple of pounds each. Move house with all your books and plates, and then you sell them back again. And they're on the move all the time. And they actually are containers for tea. And Colin used to have a tea chest that he would walk up our pathway with it on his head, doing it like this. And then he'd come in the kitchen, and then he'd get our brush, sweeping brush, and tie string around it and knot it, put a brush through the hole in the tea chest and tie the string here, and then you've got a base. So he'd be kicking it with his leg, kicking it with his knee, and twanging the string. That was the drum. So that he was the fellow whose mother wouldn't mind them playing in the kitchen. And they were playing when they were 14, 15, 16, 17. And then as they got to a certain age, in those days, you could finish school at 15. It's now 16 is the minimum age.
Yeah.
But it was 15 then. And Colin's parents pulled him out of the tea chest when he was 15 to get a proper job. So he was taken out of school. He didn't want to stay in school. And he became a joiner with his own business, very successful joiner with his own business. At the other end of the scale, you had Rod Davis, who played the guitar, banjo and sang. He was a very good friend of John's. And he was highly intelligent. And his parents did not want him carrying on playing with the Quarrymen. So they went to Quarrybank School, where John went and Rod went, and they made a deal whereby the next year he would be the head boy, which he was, which was very tempting, I suppose, in those days. And he would take more than A level, he would take S level, which is special level, that enabled him to go to Cambridge University, one of our best universities, and he studied languages and became a language teacher. And I know Rod really well now, and I joke and say, was it good all those years being a teacher? He said, I wouldn't have chosen to do anything else, but it's very tongue-in-cheek. And when Rod met John, I don't know, months later in town, when they had been to Hamburg and they were looking for another drummer, John actually said to Rod, do you play the drums? And he said no. So he might have got back into the Beatles with the drums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. And what about Stu Sutcliffe? Because, I mean, he's kind of the unknown, because, I mean, Pete Best, who was kind of the other bigger member, he's still alive, but Stu Sutcliffe died, I mean, right as the Beatles started. He did.
Well, he and John were great friends, and they shared a flat together with Cynthia. And off they go to Germany, and he met Astrid. And he died of some sort of, he couldn't play the guitar. He wasn't very good, but John wanted him in the band, so the group. So often he would turn his back so that nobody could see that he actually couldn't play. Paul wasn't very happy about it. But he got this brain aneurysm. I'm not actually quite sure. There's been many books written about this, about what actually happened, but it does look like one of those tragic accidents waiting to happen.
Right.
no one would ever know in actual fact. No one would ever know. But he'd already made the decision not to be in the group and to stay in Hamburg with Astrid. And because he was an artist, he might have done art, he might have done all sorts of things, we don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, really his life is really kind of always fascinated me.
Because lots of people have written about it.
Yeah. Because in many ways he is the untold Beatle. Like and like the four main ones, Pete Best is, as I said. But let's move on to Cynthia. And do you remember when John got with Cynthia for the first time?
Not the first date, but I remember.
But kind of when?
He had a girlfriend before, a very serious, he was a serious girlfriend, Barbara Baker. And she used to come down to the house where my mother was and hang around and wait for John and come into the house and stand in the kitchen like this with my mother, you know, sort of all a bit shy. Also very good looking, blonde. I don't know what happened between them, but the next thing was we met Cynthia about a couple of months after our mother had died, when she was John's girlfriend. He'd met her at art college. And she was, well, even when she died, she was a beautiful woman, beautiful bone structure. And she was stunning. And she became John's Bridget Bardot. Her hair got blonder and blonder and longer and longer. And she was lovely. She was a very, very gentle, kind, talented lady. She was a lady, a real lady. Yeah. Selfie-facing, very selfie-facing.
Do you remember when Julian was born?
Yes, I do. He was born in Sefton General, the same hospital that my sister and I were born in. And no one was supposed to know about it, of course. And then he came out of hospital and we all went round to Mendips to greet him, all of us. And I don't know, you probably know if you're an enthusiast, his name is actually John Charles Julian. John for John, Charles for Cynthia's father, and Julian for our mother. And he's always been known as Julian. Now, his mates, his contemporaries, call him Jules, but I still call him Julian. To me, he'll always be the full title.
Do you keep in touch with Julian?
Yes.
Yes,
I do.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah. He is my nephew. I feel as if I am his auntie.
Yeah, that's really touching.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember him just running around that flat as a toddler?
Yet we used to look after him. I was one of his babysitters. He cried. Oh my God, he cried. Some babies are just squawkers, and he was one of them. And he'd come round, we'd have the big high pram. The first time that Cynthia went to Hamburg with John, we had him, and he wasn't that old. And I'd come home from school, and Harry, my aunt, because by then we were living with her, she'd say, "Oh, Julia, would you like to take the baby out?" To take her out in the pram, hoping he'd, go to sleep. He did cry, believe me, he cried. Yeah. And then we went down to stay in their new house, Kenwood, and they'd only just moved into it. This is in 1964. We went to the Finsbury Park Astoria Christmas show. So we went to stay with John and Cynthia then, and Julian was, I don't know, 4. He was 2-ish, something like that. And we took him into Harrods in London and bought him black jeans and a black polo neck. He was a baby. And we went to see the Christmas show. And by then, of course, he'd stopped all the crying. It was just a baby thing. Some babies have colic and do suffer, boys particularly, for a fair bit of time. And I think that may have been going on. And then just as he was going to nursery and then little private primary school that he went to, where he met Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Yeah. And then, of course, Julian was only 5 when John and Cynthia split up. And you all know, I mean, I can't talk about that. You'd have to ask Julian about that. You know, what happened. The relationship became completely different. Fortunately, there are lots of lovely pictures of John and Julian together on the rocking horse, and we remember all that in the house. And he did write, we all know, everyone knows he wrote Beautiful Boy for Sean. He wrote Good Night for Julian.
Yeah.
And not many people know that. You've got to be a fan to know this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, Good Night's a beautiful song. And
it is.
Do you know if there's a demo of John singing that somewhere?
Oh, there will be, Hudson, but I don't know where anything is. No, don't.
But so I want to talk about George Harrison now.
No, but I don't know much about him. Oh, well, we went to stay in his house. When we were in Kenwood, he and Patty Boyd had just bought a bungalow, a big, fancy bungalow. And we went round to eat with them, and there was no furniture. Well, no furniture you could sit. It was all floor stuff. It was all Indian. The whole thing was Indian. So we sat on the floor, and we actually had a takeout curry. We all sat on the floor and ate it. My sister and I going, oh, right, this is Indian living, is it? So, and of course, John bought their house, didn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know. You were the youngest. When they first went to Germany, they had to come home early because of George, because he was actually only 15. And I think he was telling porkies about his age. Yeah. And his mother had sent them with biscuit tins full of food in case they didn't have food in Germany.
That's funny.
I think she made cakes and everything. They would have all been pleased with that.
I mean, nowadays you'd probably get in huge trouble for smuggling food into a different country.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can't even go grocery shopping if you live in Canada. Like on the New York border, I know some people probably go grocery shopping and then want to bring it over to Canada where they live, but you can't, which is...
Yeah.
But what are some of your memories of Paul McCartney?
Oh, Paul. I'm still in touch with Paul.
That's really awesome.
He's a very, very kind, good man. He is. He's a good man.
He is.
The last time I was, not the last time, I've been traveling backwards and forwards to America with a band called the Mersey Beatles for some years before lockdown. And we all went to see Paul. We went from Fort Wayne in Indiana. We drove up to Detroit to see the concert whenever he was in Detroit recently, just before lockdown. And I got in touch with his PA and said, we're in Indiana and a group of us have bought tickets and we're all coming to see the show in Detroit. Immediately I was invited to go backstage as soon as I got there and spend some time with Paul. He's a nice man. There was no need for him to do that at all. He's a very nice man.
He is. And I mean, what an act to see on stage.
We've seen it. I don't know how often we've seen it, 6 or 7 times. And it is just outstanding. And the last one was in the Cavern itself a couple of years ago. Again, just before lockdown. He was always promoting his new album, Egypt Station. But he laced it with all sorts of his usual, rock and roll stuff. And have you been to one of the concerts?
I haven't, but I've heard stories and seen the videos, and it's
how
crazy.
He keeps going. He never leaves the stage. He doesn't have a drink of anything, water, anything.
No.
He gets on that stage. He puts all the youngsters completely to shame. Been to see the Rolling Stones again. Oh, my life is just before lockdown. Just before lockdown in Manchester, a gang of us went. Absolutely wonderful. But they had dancers. Paul is just there. He carries the entire show. I don't know how he does it. Just don't know. He looks fantastic. He sounds fantastic. He's not lost any of his pizzazz. Anyway, he always watching. He might hear this and think, I'm going to change that. He always finishes with Helter Skelter. And you think he's done rock. And we're all dancing and we're all exhausted. We're all done for, out in the audience. And my daughter was with me last time, obviously years and years younger than me, in the cavern. And I said, come on, we'll get you a ticket, you come up. And she was dancing. She said, Mummy, when's it going to end? This is a young girl, because we're all dancing around. She says, not yet. And then one came that you would have thought was the end, because we could hardly move or breathe by then. And she said, that has to be it. I said, it isn't, Sarah. I know it. And everything went quiet and the lights go down. He's a drama queen as well, Paul. Lights go down and then it's I said, this is the last one. This is it. I don't know where he's got the energy. I don't know where it's from. Whatever it is, we'd all like them. And he did a stupendous version of Helter Skelter, because we were right up close, weren't we?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
how does he do it?
Yeah, I mean, the question is,
we're all in all.
But the question is if John was still on this planet, would Paul be doing that?
That's not a very fair question.
But do you think they would have been doing something together?
Yes, I like to think so. At least every now and again, even.
Yeah.
They'd have done things together. But Paul has been not gifted because he's worked hard, but he's gifted that top position of the Beatles because John isn't here. And I think that's fair. But it doesn't say that Paul is any less talented than John. He's the one that's here.
Right.
And he almost does the job for Don and Paul, doesn't he?
Yeah, and that's something that I think is really unfair, is the John versus Paul syndrome.
Yeah. And I think John and Paul would be, never mind their stupid squabbles. That was a teenage squabble, all this writing songs and all the rest of it. Given time, that would have gone. Given time, they just didn't get the time. They just didn't have the time. It's a lesson to all of us, isn't it?
Right.
If you have a problem with anybody, sort it out. The Bible has a wonderful one. I think it's in Psalm somewhere. It says, "Do not go to bed in an upset state with anybody." It's good advice, isn't it?
It is good advice.
Good advice. We ignore it 24 hours a day. That is very good advice, because you don't know if you've got the 25th hour to sort it out in. It's a lesson for all of us.
Yeah. What are some misconceptions about John?
Oh, I don't know. You give me some and I'll...
that he was this misogynistic person all the way through his life.
He had. I think he definitely got better. He was initially.
Yeah.
There wasn't a Scouser that wasn't, or a New Yorker.
Right.
Yeah. You think maybe we could include Frank Sinatra in that?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah. Elvis?
Yeah.
I hate to say anything bad about Elvis, but he was a misogynist, really and truly. And they're the very ones that declare that they love all women. They do love all women, all at the same time. Yeah. Misogyny was very much a part of life, and many countries on the earth are still very, very patriarchal, aren't they?
Yeah, which is terrible.
We are fortunate enough to be coming out of it, and it's your age group, Hudson, that's going to break the mold here and say, "Oh no, we're equal. We're equal now."
Yeah, I mean, even back to the voting rights in 1920, it's still been a fight.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable. But we have made, it's no good looking backwards all the time. It's no good. We've got to swivel around and look forwards and move forwards. And, if it was basically, it's all around property and land rights and stuff like that. And money, the man owned the money because he went out to work to earn it. Well, did he want children that he couldn't have himself?
Right.
There was no intelligence going on there, was there? We now apply the intelligence, don't we? Yeah. Right. And most men, if they become house husbands, most of them, if they have to do it for a while, they would swap to go back to work any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But we're in a different space now, aren't we? We are very much in your country and our country, and aren't we lucky? More equal. We really are. And long may it continue until we're interchangeable in things, interchangeable.
Right. Do you think that continuing on, if John had lived, do you think he would have been very active in in politics today with the Black Lives Matter movements? And
well, there's quite a bit of dissension about that at the moment, isn't there?
Right.
Money wise,
yeah,
lots of money seems to have disappeared. We definitely have still a problem with race.
Yeah.
But nothing as definitive, strong, edgy as in the States.
Right.
I'm in and out of the States all the time. We go to Mississippi for the music. We go to Memphis. We talk to everybody. And things have to improve. They absolutely have to. And we can all completely understand the absolute outrage over George Floyd. It doesn't matter what sort of person he was. It was murder.
It was.
It was plain, simple murder. And we've had it before. You won't remember it, but your parents will. Rodney King.
I remember that.
Do you? Right. Well, I mean, have we learned anything?
Exactly.
Have we learned anything? I mean, and doing that, it was just unbelievable that would happen. I hope it wouldn't happen here, but Hudson, I don't know.
It's scary.
I mean, this became just very high profile. We don't know what's happening, do we? That's pushed under round a door so that nobody knows. The police may close ranks. We don't know. That has got to change. But the actual movement itself, I'm a bit ambivalent about. Not that we shouldn't be doing things, but I don't know. I think it's been tarnished a bit with this money business, hasn't it?
Somewhat. Maybe.
Somewhat, it has. But I don't know. We've got to be doing something.
Right.
We do have to be doing something. Yes, it is the next big thing, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. In Western first world countries, we're sort of on the track with gender equality. We're sort of on the track. On this, the racial equality, we really do have to start making a very, very conscious effort to work on it. We really do, if we're going to count ourselves worthy human beings.
Yeah, I mean, the US is a racist country, and we have to face that. And I have to face that. I have to wake up and live with that I live in.
Oh, no, don't. It's not your fault. It is not your fault.
Yeah.
I went to, I've been a good few times. I went to the Martin Luther King Museum in Memphis. I've been a couple of times. I mean, you cry all the way around it. And there was a young boy. You're 14, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, he was 16. And he was in, it just makes me cry just thinking about it. He was in one of the booths and he'd been watching something. He had the headphones on. He was watching a particularly harrowing piece of footage about students not being allowed into the university. You know these stories yourself, where Kennedy, who was slow to act and in the end had to, I mean, he didn't run there, did he? But in the end, he did something about allowing him in, and the National Guard there. You know these stories yourself. And he was on the floor sobbing, this young boy. And I knew instantly what it was. He'd watched this and I'd seen it 3 or 4 times, and it was devastating. And I picked him up and said, it wasn't you. It's not your fault. It's not you. Please stand up. And just when you're out and about, if you see anything, try and do something about it. You didn't do that. And there's no doubt in my mind that you would never do that. So you can't take it on, Hudson. You cannot take on that mantle. You just have to look around you and see what's happening with your neighbor, literally the next person to you, the next person to you, the next person to you. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. You can't do this to young people. You cannot do it to young people.
Yeah, which I like that advice. Thank you. So what are do you have some memories of like going to, say, did you ever like go to the Hard Day's Night premieres? Like,
yes,
with the group?
Went to the Hard Day's Night, the film The Hard Day's Night. There were 2 premieres, really. One was in London with Princess Margaret, and the other one was the next day in Liverpool at our town hall. And I said to John, we want to come. There were 4 of us, me, my sister, David, the cousin who became the brother, and another cousin who still lived with his own mother, Michael. The 4 of us were like, we call ourselves the Gang of 4 even now. Right. We wanted to go. I said, we want to come to London. We want to come to that. He said, oh, Julia, believe me, the real premiere is tomorrow. We can't wait. We've got to do this. The real one is tomorrow. So, of course, we had no choice. We were being told, you're coming tomorrow. And they closed the city of Liverpool down. And it's only been done twice. Once was a famous footballer called Dixie Dean. He played for Everton, sadly, not Liverpool, the best team. He played for Everton, and he won Footballer of the Universe in 1922. And they closed Liverpool down then to welcome him. Plenty of flowers everywhere. Welcome Dixie Dean. Every Liverpudlian knows about this. And the next time was in 1964 for A Hard Day's Night. And they closed the entire city down. And it's only the second time, and it hasn't happened again. And for the Hard Day's Night premiere. A few years ago, one of our beautiful buildings that had been bombed during the war, Picton Library, the beautiful big library, it's got a huge glass dome on the top. Now, when I say glass, it's multi reinforced since it was built in 18 something or other. It had been bombed in the war, it had cracked, and it had never been fixed. So in 2008, we got a lot of money from Europe for the European City of Culture that gave our city a huge boost. And £2 million of it went immediately designated to fix the roof. And to fix the roof, they had to empty the library. Now, this is the Picton Library. It's one of the best libraries in the entire country. I spent a lot of time in there. And they emptied it and took it all next door to the art gallery, stored all the books, classified them, stored them to empty the building. Because while they were doing that, they were going to restore. It's a beautiful building. It's a circular building. It's absolutely gorgeous. On the top floor, they had all the archives from Liverpool. And an archivist got in touch with me and said, my name's Kevin Roach, and he has written a book about my mother, about everything. If you want to look at that, Kevin Roach, R-O-A-C-H. I think you'd be interested in talking to me. So I went to meet him for a coffee. And he said, here's the correspondence prior to closing the city down for a hard day's night. And there were 5 letters and 2 phone calls. And they closed the city down on that. Can you imagine the squillion, gazillion emails that would go backwards and forwards to a gazillion people who had nothing to do with it to close the city down now? It was all in the letters, confirmed by 2 phone calls, and that was it. They closed the city down on that. Anyway, the actual thing was fantastic. We were on the balcony with them, looking out down what is the oldest street in Liverpool, Castle Street. It's where all the money from the Bank of England came to be hidden during the war. Wasn't that a smart move? Liverpool was one of the biggest bombed cities because of the shipyards, and all the gold was under the street in Liverpool. Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, that's...
The Germans wouldn't have thought we'd have been so stupid or so intelligent. So, yeah, all the artwork was brought up here to the salt mines. Churchill said, they're stealing art out of Germany. Well, they're not having ours. And it was all brought up to the salt mines, which are about 10 miles away from where we live now. And all the money came to Castle Street and went in all the underground vaults. It's not brilliant. So I'm looking down the street and everywhere was just completely... And then we went to the theatre for the film of A Hard Day's Night. And we lost John in all the, he was taken in one car and we were taken in another car. And this is all new to us, being taken around in limos, cars. It was ridiculous. And we got there and we all sat down and we were sitting next to the mayor of, we were sitting in front of the mayor of Liverpool and his daughter, who was at school with us. And the cousin that we lived with, David, that became our brother, fancied her like Billy-O. He was like 15 and he'd taken a real shine to her. He'd actually cycled outside our house to see where she lived, but not even dared to knock. And we all got chocolates, and he was feeding our chocolates to this girl behind because he fancied her. Goodness me. Never let him forget about that. And we all sat down and the curtains were closed, and suddenly John came out. The curtains moved and John came out and stood in the middle of the stage. He went like this because if you've ever been on a stage, you can't see anything.
No, you can't.
Yeah. And he's like this, and he said, I've lost my family. Where are you? Where are you? And we all stood up and said, we're here, John, we're here. And he went, oh, good. Because we'd all got separated in the crash. And then we watched the film, which of course was just brilliant. And then we all went home and John stayed at home that night. It was good.
So, Julia, I want to thank you for coming on, and I want to turn the show over to you to let you plug away anything that you would like to plug.
Oh, right. Thank you. Well, if anyone would care, that's why I asked you how many people there are. That's my book. If you send me your address, I will send you one.
Thank you.
That's okay. But if anybody else wants it, I will write the website in for you so that you can plug it for me, right?
I will.
Yeah. So if you go to juliabiard.co.uk, my name, juliabiard.co.uk, you'll find the book, right? I'm wondering, will you find it? Yes, I'm sure you'll find the book. But I will write it for you in the book. I'll send it to you and write it. You email me your address.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I am the honorary president for Strawberry Field, the reopening of the Salvation Army's wonderful project, Strawberry Field. And I worked with educational psychology with disturbed adolescents. That was my job, EBD, emotional and behavioral difficulties. So they didn't have a broken arm, but often they had a broken head or a broken heart. And I loved my job, absolutely loved it. I'm now working in retirement. They've got a fantastic program, take students from 18, so post-school, 18 to 25, with mild to moderate learning disabilities, and giving them confidence and boosting them as a program. And they can choose various things that they'd like to do, whether it's working in a hospital, as a volunteer, working in a cafe, all our Beatles industries, everybody's got them. Absolutely everybody's got them. And eventually they may get paid, maybe half a day, maybe one day, maybe Monday and then Friday, because all week is too much for them, to bring them back into mainstream life where they belong. Often in school was so stressful that they opted not to go, and nobody even followed them up. And sometimes they're in a special school that just ended at a certain age and they need help. So far, almost 60 students have gone through and they've got jobs, which is really fantastic. One of them said, I want to be a chef. Okay. Have you ever done any cooking before? No, but I want to be a chef. Right. He's now cooking in Liverpool Football Club 3 days a week.
Wow.
He was determined. Nobody's ever asked him before what he wanted to be. Nobody's ever. They just looked at him and thought, well, he's not going to do anything. You know?
That's a really good job. That's a really special thing.
It is. And a lot of them, they start work because in Strawberry Field, in the exhibition space, which is wonderfully new, all built by the Salvation Army, they've got a cafe and it's very popular. So you don't pay to go in the cafe. You don't pay to do the shop. You don't pay to be in the gardens where there's a peace garden with the original Strawberry Field gates, but you do pay to go into the exhibition, and anyone paying to go into the exhibition is funding the students. This is Sally Army. No money's going anywhere else. It's all run by volunteers. So it is a fantastic program. So I will write all these things down in the cover of this book so that you can pass them on. And if you would put them out every time you do anything, then that will be more than payment for me. You will be helping everything. You'll be helping everything. And on juliabiard.co.uk, I've written a blog. I think there's about 18, all about Strawberry Field. I've stopped now. I stopped at lockdown, and I don't know if I'll carry it on, but I've given the history, photographs, how it started. There's pictures of it when it was being built, everything, and pictures of the students now. So there's 18 short blogs, just hopefully interesting, that will let people know what actually is going on there. And you can go around the museum online. That's not going to cost you anything. So I will be very, very grateful for you doing that, Hudson. That's really great.
I will definitely do that.
That's lovely.
So I want to thank you for coming on, Julia. Just quickly, if you want to, you can email me at iknowpodcast@icloud.com. Please leave your comments there. You can find us virtually any podcasting platform. And thank you all for listening.